Şimdi sırada Enabling Your Business with Security for Digital Transformation paneli var. Doğru mu? Evet.
Doğrudur.
Gareth Macguire'ı çağırıyorum efendim. Principal Technical Specialist for IDAM at Sky. Alkışlarınızla lütfen.
Let's go ahead. Right. Okay. Go ahead. How are you?
I'm good, thank
Nice to meet you.
Where do you want me?
Please. Okay. There's one ticket. I will tell it at the end of the session. You want me to tell it now or at the end? Okay, as a surprise. Great. Session sonunda bir sürprizimiz olacakmış. Gareth, thanks a lot for coming.
Oh, my pleasure.
Dijital transformasyon hepimizin içinde olduğu bir süreç ancak tabii ki en büyük endişemiz de bunları güvenli bir şekilde yürütülmesi. Konu kritik sistemlere, kritik verilere erişim olunca haliyle bu endişemiz giderek daha da artmakta. Bugün konuyu 30 binin üzerinde çalışanıyla dünyanın en büyük sayısal yayın kuruluşlarından biri olan Sky UK'den Principal Technical Specialist Gareth'le konuşuyor olacağız. Gareth, first of all, thanks a lot for coming to here. You fly the long way to come here to participate the Shield 18. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
So we're gonna talk about the IDAM challenges today the corporates have on the way to their digital transformation.
Yep.
So please, can you tell us about yourself and your company Sky first?
Yeah, well, me first. I've very much built my career from the ground up in IT. I have done everything from underneath tables, plugging in network connections, to desktop support, to service desk, through office systems, Teams, through Active Directory support, up to where I am with the Principal Technical Specialist for IDAM at Sky's role. That's kind of given me a broad insight into pretty much everything within IT, I think, which is kind of what you need whenever you're taking an IDAM project on, because it touches so many different facets. Sky, that's a great place to work. It's a really vibrant workplace where they nurture creativity. So I've been with them for 14 years. I think that kind of speaks volumes for what they're like as an employer. We are Europe's largest entertainment company. We have 23 million subscribers across 7 territories. We are also a tech company and the tech innovation side, because we have the award-winning Sky Q set-top box, where as well as watching our own content, you can also watch Netflix and Spotify now. It's an extra service that we offer to our customers. On top of that, we also have a pay-as-you-go offering for Now TV. I don't know if that's available in Turkey. And we are a quad-play supplier, so we do subscription television, broadband, mobile landline, and also, landline telephone and also mobile telephone. We have 31,000 permanent employees, and we are a Times Top 50 employer for women. And we've also been listed in Stonewall's top 50 companies for LGBT inclusion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So this is a giant company with more than 30,000 employees. So you should be the best guy we can talk about the identity management.
Well, we have 60,000 identities that we manage. So 31 of them are permanent employees, but we also have a large user base of contractors and people that work in remote contact centers handling customer data for us.
Okay, when it comes to identity governance, what are your biggest needs, top concerns at Sky?
For me personally, it's got to be security. I mean, that's why we're here, isn't it? We're here at a security conference. So without identity governance, then it's very difficult to keep a track of who has access to what within your organisation. And if you've lost track of that, then you've lost control. So I think it's key for me that we have to keep security first and foremost, but there's also a compliance perspective to take into consideration. There's things that we are regulated by the payment card industry, PCI, and as some of you are probably more than aware, if you don't meet the controls there, then you can face potential fines or worse yet, refusal to accept card payments through your platforms.
What are the critical data and applications you need to control and govern access?
Well, I mentioned PCI. There's our main customer management platform. So although we have mitigation in place so that theoretically, no, not theoretically, definitely people that are answering telephone calls do not get to hear or in any way decipher customers' card details. Nonetheless, because customer card details are stored there, we still come under the same controls. So we need to have a robust method of making sure that the appropriate access is handed out within the PCI zone, if you like, the customer management zone. The other thing that we have to keep an eye on is elevated user accounts, so sysadmins. We try and differentiate them within Sky, but keep them linked at the same time. So for example, an elevated account won't be in scope for anything like password synchronization, because obviously you don't want potentially a non-privileged account, the password being known and then that being used to gain access to a privileged account. But we also glue them together with the IDAM solution so that whenever a standard user leaves, we also shut down their elevated accounts.
Cool. In order to understand better, could you please share us some examples of your groups of users?
Well, the main bucket, if you like, for most of our users is just a standard user account, which will be an Active Directory account, Office 365 with a standard E3 license, and Skype for Business. On top of that, we've also got bespoke roles, such as customer service representatives. They'll use a Citrix desktop in order to access the systems, and they'll have on-prem mailboxes. But then we've also got kind of specialist roles, such as our satellite installers, who go to people's houses to install satellite systems. They access everything through an iPad. Funnily enough, not the one that you're giving away today, I hope. So their customer data is potentially accessible remotely. So we have to manage these in different levels.
How were you before managing your users' identity security?
Before we had the identity management system, we used to have an awful lot of legacy processes. So there would be a lot of CSVs going through where people would be running scripts against them and going back through and cross-checking things. They would do this from an HR feed, but the HR feed is a little bit more complicated for Sky than most, in that we have multiple feeds that we have to kind of treat the same but differently without going into too much detail. But with the identity management platform, what we're able to do is create a table where we can homogenize this into one group of users, and we can then do clever event-driven stuff to automate it using the identity management platform. We also use this for shutting down our accounts based on a nightly feed, and we also try and provision them on a timely basis based on their start date. So for example, a user lifecycle would be somebody's onboarded manually through an HR admin system in one of our offices. This would come through a nightly feed to the identity management team. We would pick that up and we would create an inactive person, like a stub for that user, which will remain inactive until 7 days before they start the company. At that point, we activate it and we give the manager a one-time PIN that the user can use to log in and set their password before they come on site. The reason we do this is because they have a final piece of the puzzle that they have to complete with HR before they actually come on board and start. So it's, we've had an awful lot of legacy processes in the past that we've had to try and make more robust, and the identity management platform has been a really useful tool to that respect.
Okay, let me ask you, what drove you to consider one identity? What was the business problem at hand?
The business problem at hand, we had an existing legacy identity management system with Sun IDM. Now, the problem is whenever we implemented this at Sky, it perhaps didn't have the correct stakeholder buy-in. It was looked very much as a platform to be maintained rather than a powerful tool for managing user base. So if you like, identity management didn't have a good reputation whenever we were starting off to decide what identity platform we were going to choose. So we had to go through a really robust process to whittle down our competitors. And we got certain competitors to come in and, sorry, your competitors. We got certain competitors to come in and do a proof of concept on site for us. We gave them all a level playing field, and we gave them access to our development environments and tried to get them to do as much as they could within a week, which the quest one identity manager was at that time, won hands down, which made it very easy for us to then go back to execs and say, look, okay, I know we didn't do very much with Sun IDM in the past, but look what we can do now. So that gave them the belief that we could then take it on to a full RFP with our competitors.
Great, thank you. Can you take us through an example of your workflow with the solution?
Yeah, I think probably the best example is the user lifecycle, like I said earlier. So once you've onboarded a user, they're then activated 7 days before. They come on site, they do their job, and we attest them quarterly on their access through their entire period with Sky. We then get notified of a leaving date from HR. We shut down the account on that date. That is where we will disable access to all downstream systems, but we will not depersonalize or strip the account at that point. We wait another 30 days later, again based on that date, and at that point we will depersonalize and remove all entitlements. Just for business continuity, because mistakes happen, people might not necessarily leave the business. Whenever they say they're leaving, they might come back, so it gives us a chance to claw things back before we actually do a hard shut on people.
What gave you trust and confidence about the Identity Manager solution?
Time, and a word, time. It's one of these things where you've kind of got to have an element of trust that it's doing what it's saying it's doing, but you also have to go back and you have to cross-check it for a period. You have to go through and run reports. You have to go through and look at the actual objects in the target systems versus what's being reflected in the Identity Manager tool and make sure that they are very much in sync. But once you've done that for a while, you gain trust and you know that you're in a good place. And since we've started down this road, we've never been asked for a single piece of information that we've not been able to provide as accurate.
What kind of impact have you been able to make with Identity Manager solution?
We've clawed back an awful lot of user time because we had a lot of manual processes before. So if a user came on board before we had the Identity Manager, generally they would create an Active Directory account through a request from the service desk. Once that was created, they would then ask for any other entitlements to go on it. Again, these potentially quite bad processes where copy IDs are used rather than fresh accounts. So we'd lose quite a lot of downtime to the business from somebody creating a request, somebody actioning a request, going back and revisiting the request whenever it wasn't done correctly in the first place. Whereas now we're in a position where we can then build role-based access controls for our users. And we know if you are a customer service representative, this is the rights you're going to need, this is the platforms you're going to need access to, and we can go in and create them. We had, as I said earlier, we've got 60,000 identities that we actively manage with Sky. Over and above that, we've got 10,000 service and generic accounts and 200,000 plus downstream linked accounts to these identities. So it's just being able to automate all of this and having everything linked centrally has given us a huge amount of manpower back. You can't really put a price on it. I know people will use certain bistro logic to come up with the amount of costs per head, but I think it's too vast and too fathomable to put an actual figure on.
Great. We are coming to the end, but before, in a nutshell, I'd like to ask you, in a nutshell, what business value and benefits have you seen from the solution, and what are some of the key metrics and quantifiable results you have seen with the solution?
Well, like I said, we do have quite a vast estate. There's 60,000 users and there are 200,000 downstream accounts. We process 40,000 attestations quarterly for those users. We also implemented the Quest Password Manager solution at the same time, where we allow users to self-service password reset, and also managers to issue one-time PINs for a password reset if they really can't remember their challenge response questions. So we do in the region of 2,000 of them per month. We've also got an extensive selection of self-subscribable reports. So people that are looking for information tend to go and self-service information instead of having to come to us. So again, it frees up our time to do more clever and creative things and try and make things easier. And it starts to become like rolling thunder. Once you get one thing going, it just goes and it just goes and it becomes easier and easier.
Great. And as a final and my favorite question, when I'm talking with an expert, if you were speaking with a peer who needs a identity governance solution, what would you tell them about the one identity?
What answer do you want?
Okay, you are the one who are using it. And
where are we going for dinner again? Like I said, we had a bit of an uphill struggle to implement an identity platform after the mistakes of the past, the Sun IDM platform. I think getting the exec buy-in is key whenever you're trying to do any kind of identity management platform. For us, because we were able to exceed expectations using the identity management platform, it made an awful lot of future conversations much simpler for us. Now, the only reason we were able to do it so quickly for us particularly is because Identity Manager plays to our strengths. Because it's VB.NET based and it's SQL at the back end, we're all kind of familiar with that, what we do. So we're a very small development team. There's only two of us, myself and one other full-time developer working on this. So the identity management team is 6 individuals. We do a hell of a lot of work with not a lot of people. And I would challenge any of the other vendors that certainly whenever we went through at the time of proof of concept to be able to do something of a similar scale.
Great, thank you. Thank you guys, both of you. Gareth, Dave, you traveled a long way to Turkey to participate to Shield 18.